A very good evening to you. You are watching Primetime News on News First. I'm Saturang Hapwarachi.
And I'm Rahna Farooq. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Instructions from the President to expand the Wilpattu Forest Reserve to a wildlife zone. Special program to monitor forests by air. Politicians respond to former President Rajapaksa's statement that the government will be toppled next year.
මේ කාලේ දවල් හීන දකින්නවා ණයට කිරිපෝණයකේ ආදීනව මොනවද කියලා මේ සමාජයේ ජනතාව දන්නවා
අපිට ආපහු අර සුදු වෑන් යුගයට යන්නට අපිට අවශ්‍යතාවයක් නැහැ
පොඩි එයාට පොඩි චූන් එකක් දෙන්න ඒ වාගේ ප්‍රකාශ නිකුත් කරන ඒව පිළිබඳව අපි ඉතින් කලබලයටපත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ
Prison's Hospital Dr. Malinda Vanigasekara transferred.
Taking a look at those stories in detail now, President Maithripala Sirisena instructed authorities to issue a Gazette notification declaring a larger wildlife reserve, further expanding the forest area that belongs to the Wilpattu National Park. The President issued the instructions during a special meeting with officials of the Ministry of Environment at the Presidential Secretariat.
The President called for the expeditious implementation of a program to continuously monitor forests, including the Wilpattu National Park, with the usage of modern technology and aerial technology. President Sirisena further instructed officials to enforce the law against persons who are responsible for the destruction of forests, irrespective of their social status. The President had requested the Judicial Service Commission to fully implement penalties and sentences within the existing laws against deforestation and forest degradation. He also instructed officials to appoint a special investigations team which would comprise of officials from the Ministry of Environment, the Department of Forest Conservation, the Department of Wildlife Conservation, as well as representatives of environmental organizations and journalists. The President also instructed officials to implement a special program to identify land outside forest areas for the purpose of resettlement.
Meanwhile, a specialist doctor was stabbed at a prominent private hospital in Colombo this evening. Police said that the stabbing took place while the doctor was seeing patients. The doctor is being treated at the private hospital for his injuries. The suspect has been taken into custody by the Slave Island Police.
In November 2015, the government decided to change the mechanism to provide school uniform materials to students and introduce a new voucher system. This decision was taken following various irregularities that were detected in a tender process as well as the distribution process. The Minister of Education stated at the time that the government will be able to save around 500 million rupees through this process and that it will be used to improve education in the country. With time passing, several anomalies surrounding the new voucher system came to light. The main allegation was that substandard material that was imported by an Indian company in 2015 was sold to students through the Lanka Salusala via the new voucher system. News First Action TV highlighted on several occasions how letters sent by the Secretary to the Ministry of Education has paved the way for Lanka Salusala to sell school uniform material to students at a competitive rate. There were later conflicting paper articles that reported that the Secretary to the Ministry of Education has asked the President to launch an investigation into the matter as this could pave the way for more corruption in the country.
They have decided to provide the material through Salusala, but it closed down some time back. That institution has only 19 employees working for it. The rest have been sent on retirement and they have been removed. What has happened through this is a massive fraud. What is this joke? Where is the administration? The government spends a lot of money on the uniform material. I think it exceeds 2.3 billion. That is a huge amount. They are acting without a proper administration mechanism. We see this as a crime. The result of all this will be that the students will be without school uniform material. We know that some of these vouchers are still with the parents. Some undistributed vouchers are still in the schools. All of these vouchers will expire from tomorrow. This is clearly a conspiracy of the government to collect money because if they give out the material, they will lose the money.
සල්ලි ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ නැති නිසා මේ සල්ලි ඉතුරු කරගන්න ගාපු කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් තමයි මේක.
The final rites of the late former Prime Minister Ratnasiri Wickramanayake are to be conducted at the Horana public grounds with full state honours. President Maithripala Sirisena paid his last respects to the late former Premier today.
The President arrived at the residence of the late former Prime Minister in Horana this morning. Ratnasiri Wickramanayake, who played different roles in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party from 1962 onwards, reached the pinnacle of his political career when he was appointed as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. At the time of his demise, he was serving as a senior advisor to President Maithripala Sirisena. We all know that he engaged in politics by channeling all of his personal wealth towards the political movement and the people. He is not someone who made money from politics. He is someone engaged in clean politics. Personally, I was able to learn a great deal from him with regard to making the right decisions. Therefore, his loss saddens me greatly. I hope that his character and life will be a role model and an example for the younger generation as well as amateur politicians.
A statement made by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa in the presence of foreign correspondents in Sri Lanka has drawn strong reactions from various spheres.
Why did the people reject him? We are aware of the issues regarding democracy. Journalists are aware of the issues relating to media freedom. There is large-scale fraud and corruption that took place. Basil Rajapaksa was acting as a super minister. The fear of such a position came about back then. There were super parliamentarians like his son, while he acted like a super president. We were also able to witness a super first lady. Overall, the country was being run by the first family. There was no institution in the country that was not affiliated with this government. Be it government, non-government or semi-government, they were entirely ruled by one family. All these institutions were being run by either his wife, his sons, his close associate or his lovers. What corrections has he made? Has he confessed about what he did? How can he go before the public in 2017? How can he send parliamentarians? He is free and out in the open because of delays in nabbing those responsible for theft and the delay in implementing judicial proceedings. He is daydreaming. Everyone knows the bad things that can happen when you feed a serpent. We hope that the president would understand this and make a decision. He does not remember things. He says, do not attack demonstrations. He is trying to act like a saint. He does not remember shooting the protesters in Ratapaswala and Katunayaka. He is preaching to the nation as if he came from outer space. The opportunity of establishing a government comes only after achieving victory at the next parliamentary elections, which will take place in 2020. There is no obstruction to work cordially with the president. The president has not made such a proposal. However, who governs the country? Who makes the final decision on the Prime Minister and the government? These decisions are in the hands of the president and the parliamentarians. Though the president curtailed his power, those powers have not been curtailed. The former president had said that he will topple the government next year. He says he will form a government with the incumbent president. This is hilarious. We have no need to go back to the white van era. People lived in fear during that time. Could you speak a word against the Rajapaksa family back then? There was the white van menace where people were snatched in white vans. Journalists like Lasantha Wickramatunge were assassinated. Persons like Poddala Jayantha were beaten up and forced to flee the country. In Hambantota, a Russian woman was gang raped and her partner, Englishman Khurram Sheikh, was hacked to death by the former chairman of the Pradeshya Sabha. This was the era that we lived in. The people decided to change it and gave their mandate. Mahinda Rajapaksa says that he will build a government in 2017. I do not believe that the people of the country want to go back to such an era.
The person who spoke ill and betrayed the president at temples has told the foreign correspondents that he is open to working together with President Maithripala Sirisena. We cannot trust the statement made by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Why? When he took one step forward, his associates who are always around him insulted the president. They tried to pull him down. In politics, there is no eternal governance. That is why the former president is saying that he is ready to work with President Maithripala Sirisena. We are completely aware that President Maithripala Sirisena will never appoint the former president as his prime minister or grant any other portfolio. How many MPs does Mahinda Rajapaksa have with him? Less than 50. Therefore, he will require the support of another 75 MPs to build a team of 113. Where will he get that number from? There are two ways to accomplish this. He could bait them with money. He has money from what he looted in the past. Will he follow the process? Or he has to obtain the votes at an election. There is no election in the horizon, so that it is simply a stunt to please his party members. We should not panic because of this. President Maithripala Sirisena is the executive president. Will he be kicked out? How will Mahinda Rajapaksa regain power? He must first think as to what happened to his power. Why does he want to regain power? He is wise before obtaining power and loses his mind thereafter. This can be a deal reached with Ranil to remove the governance of Maithripala.
Mahinda Rajapaksa has told newspapers that he is ready to work with the president.
We agree and we hope that he does join in force. The former president is a member of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. He entered parliament through the SLFP. I do not think he will ever leave the SLFP.
But the Rajapaksa family will come along as well.
This has nothing to do with the family. This is about Mahinda Rajapaksa. We have no issue.
Will the former president be appointed to a position in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party?
We stand by the decision made by the party. We are not prepared to breach party decisions. We will stand by any decision reached by the party.
Construction work on yet another Udagammana project in the Viriyagama area in Suryawewa, Hambantota commenced today under the Yali Pubudamu Gammudawa program.
While this is the 83rd Udagammana project commenced in the Hambantota district, it is the 232nd Udagammana project launched in the country. At the event, deeds were presented to a number of beneficiaries. Those who were in power before us are now saying that they developed this country with great difficulty and that the current administration is destroying the fruits of their labour. We took over a debt-ridden country, a country that was riddled with numerous socio-economic problems. The time has come for us to reveal the true ugly picture that was created by the rulers who preceded us. Today, with our money, we are constructing homes, we are building Udagammanas. Next year, under the Gammudawa program, we will create 500 Udagammana.
Dr. Malinda Wanigasekara, who served at the prison's hospital, has been transferred to the National Cancer Hospital in Maharagama. This transfer was made in a backdrop where the Minister of Health, Dr. Rajitha Senaratne, announced that investigations have been launched into the actions of doctors attached to the prison's hospital.
A spokesperson for the prison's hospital said that the transfer was made on a temporary basis until the investigations are concluded. When News First inquired from Dr. Malinda Wanigasekara, he said that he volunteered to be transferred, taking into account the security risk on his life. However, when we made inquiries from the prison's media spokesperson, he refrained from commenting on the matter. Meanwhile, the Government Medical Officers Association said that it has appointed a committee to look into whether the transfer was made in accordance with proper procedures. Parliamentarian Hirunika Premachandra heavily criticised the actions of prison doctors in Parliament recently.
Meanwhile, speaking to News First, MP Hirunika Premachandra said that charges have been levelled against the actions of another doctor attached to the prison's hospital.
During the budget debate on the expenditure heads of the Ministry of Prison and Prison Reforms, I revealed certain malpractices, irregularities and corrupt activities that take place within prisons and the prison hospital. I mentioned the names of 2 doctors who are directly involved in such acts, and I also presented details to Parliament. One of the said doctors has been transferred from the prison's hospital to another hospital. His license to practice should be temporarily suspended. That has not been done. He continues to remain in the prison's hospital. Both of them commit the same malpractices malpractices. They work together. Transferring one person while the other remains will not stop the malpractices taking place. The Minister of Health took action by appointing a committee when I made the statement. The committee is probing the matter. I request the Minister of Health and the Secretary of the Ministry to immediately transfer the other doctor in question and conduct a just inquiry.
Chairman of Lanka Salt Limited, Ayub Khan, says that the company has recorded a net profit of 990 million rupees at the end of the financial year.
According to financial records of Lanka Salt Limited, the company generated a revenue of 755 million during the year 2014. The net profit stood at 73 million. Although the company recorded a staggering revenue of 1.01 billion rupees during the year 2015, what is notable is that the company suffered a loss of 170 million rupees. Lanka Salt Limited attributed the loss to a dip in production owing to inclement weather. However, in comparison to last year, the company has seen a 76% increase in revenue and a net profit of 990 million rupees.
This is a company which was handed over to us with a debt of 330 million rupees. However, within 2 years, we were able to turn it into a company that earned a net profit of 990 million rupees.
What is notable is that 99% of shares of Lanka Salt Limited is owned by the Employees Trust Fund, while the remaining 1% is shared amongst its investors. During a media briefing organized by Lanka Salt Limited, journalists questioned whether lands belonging to the company would also be handed over to a Chinese company under a lease along with the Hambantota port.
We have been allocated the necessary plots of lands for the Hambantota, Bundala, Koholakala and Pairupana Sultans. I don't think that these lands will be taken away from us at any given time. They have already been granted to us.
According to Indika Veerasinghe, the finance manager of Lanka Salt Limited, the annual consumption of salt in the country amounts to 12,000 metric tons. 70% of this requirement is produced by Lanka Salt Limited. 20% is produced by private salt manufacturers, while 10% is imported from India annually. A question arises as to why a country which produces 90% of its requirement imports salt from India.
For now, a certain amount of the salt requirement in Sri Lanka is imported from India. The reason that we don't produce certain kinds of salts, like zero salt and vacuum salt, needed for production purposes. We are planned to produce these type of salts in the country in the year 2017. We hope to inform the government that Hambantota Salt Limited has the capacity to produce these salts in the year 2017.
Lanka Salt Limited capacity.
Today, News First caught up with 25-year-old Yanis McDavid, who was born with no arms and legs. Yet, he goes to university, drives a car and travels the world, while most of us complain when we have all what's needed.
Yanis McDavid is also the author of the book titled Your Best Life, about the courage to surpass yourself and make the impossible possible. Even with his disability, Yanis does whatever is possible alone with little to no assistance and says his disability is only a challenge in life.
Hello. Good morning. How are you? Fine, thank you. How are you?
No, can I offer you a glass of water?
Yes, thank you.
Can I offer you I'm sorry, I'm not going to serve you water, even though we Sri Lankans do it. You can have your glass of water.
I can have it as on my own, yes, of course. And this is actually quite good because my parents did the same. When I was younger, when I was a child, and I wanted to drink something, my parents just gave me like this, like a glass and a bottle of water, and they told me just try to open, because they wanted me to do as most as possible on my own. But actually, this is even more interesting in a train, you know.
Why? Why? How come?
When the train is like this,
Yeah.
shaky. But it worked as well, yes.
So but you still manage?
Yeah, I still manage.
What?
I always try to do all the things that I can do, to do them on my own.
This morning, Yanis also spoke to senior officials of the Capital Maharaja organization on the importance of achieving one's full potential regardless of one's disabilities.
Why do we often speak about normal or not normal in relation to people? And why do we define some people to be not normal? And why do I tell you anyway that I'm still normal? Because I have my own definition. I think normal means in our society to be different, being individual. The pursuit of individuality is very important. But we all need certain preconditions to be able to live our lives. When I realized that, it became very clear to me. My physical situation is not a disability. No, my physical situation is a challenge. A challenge as other people's need glasses, some are dyslexics, can't remember faces. So I need a wheelchair. And I need step-free access to buildings, for example. But these are all challenges that I have to cope with.
More local news. The people of Badulagammana in Bibile voiced their plight before Stanley Jayasinghe, a talented cricketer in our country as well as a distinguished administrator, on how broken promises of politicians had left them helpless. Now, today the foundation stone was laid for a project to provide clean drinking water to the villagers under the auspices of Stanley Jayasinghe.
නමුත් අදුනතර කිසි ප්‍රතිචාරයක් නැහැ. අදුනතර කිසි ප්‍රතිචාරයක් නැහැ. බිමක් කරන්නේ අපිට. අපි කො කුතුහලපත්තුමා ඉන්නව නේද? කො. එතුමා තමයි ගිහිල්ලා මේක වෙනකොටම ගිහිල්ලා දැනුම් දුන්නා. කො ඉන්නේ? වෙනකොටම ගිහිල්ලා දේශපාලන නායකත්වයට දැනුම් දුන්නා. ඡන්දේ ගන්න විතරයි නේද?
The people of Badulagammana have sacrificed much to quench their thirst. Without turning a blind eye to the sufferings encountered by these people, a massive project was initiated to provide clean drinking water to these people.
We revealed your suffering through our news bulletins. We saw that there was no response from the authorities even though we highlighted your issues. That is the reason why, even though it was not our duty, we as Sri Lankans took up the responsibility and initiated the Gammadda movement.
Former Sri Lankan cricketer Stanley Jayasinghe attended the event to inaugurate work on the community water project as a special guest. The hopes and dreams of about 3,000 people will bear fruit as the News First Gammadda movement is supported by these generous people.
I have been a friend of the chairman of Sirasa, Mr. Raja Mahendran, for about 50 years, and I paid him a visit 2 or 3 months ago. I was saddened by the plight of the people shown through the Gammadda movement. I wanted to contribute to the movement as well. We are determined to provide water to the people of this village. I am happy that I came here today. If I can, I will come back to help everyone. We have some magnanimous donors in our country. They pave the way for charitable deeds of this nature. But there is no one to guide them. That is why Gammadda is here.
The hopes of the people in Badulagammana were realized in just 2 hours. Water surfaced from the excavation site for the tube well, bringing a feeling of relief to all the area residents. The Gammadda movement will continue to forge ahead.
Moving on to some rugby news. Navy locked horns with the Police Sports Club in today's rugby league match and recorded a 41-28 win. Navy won the game with 6 tries, 4 conversions and 1 penalty in the match played in Valisara. Meanwhile, over in Ratmalana, CR and FC triumphed over Air Force with 34-22. CR and FC won the game with 6 tries and 2 conversions.
And that's the wrap for Primetime News. For the News First team, I'm Rahna Farooq.
I'm Chaturang Hapwaj, but before we go, you can keep track of all these stories and more on our social media platforms as well as our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk. With that, we go for tonight. Take care and good night.
TV1 News First.